It's RJ Vijaya, and you've tuned into Neurodiversity with Dr. Banerjee, brought to you by Landmark College, the college for students who learn differently. Today, we tackle a topic that's both pertinent and empowering: neurodiversity and employability. In a world increasingly recognizing the value of diverse perspectives, how do neurodiverse individuals bring their unique talents and strengths to the workplace? Well, shedding light on the strategies, the challenges, and the triumphs within the realm of employment for the neurodiverse is Dr. Manju Banerjee, Landmark College Learning Disabilities and Neurodiversity Ambassador at Large. And she joins me now. Welcome, Dr. Banerjee. So wonderful to see you.
Wonderful to see you again, Vijaya. Looking forward to this.
Yes, absolutely. So, Dr. Banerjee, half of neurodivergent employees basically don't feel supported at work. And there was a recent survey that this came out of as well. It was done by Optimize, a neurodiversity inclusion training provider, and they uncovered that 1 in 5 neurodivergent employees have experienced harassment and discrimination at work because of their neurodivergence. Now, what, according to you, are some of the challenges that are faced by neurodiverse individuals in finding and then keeping a job? And could you give us some examples on that?
Absolutely. And it's a great topic. It's a topic that would be long would be enough to fill up the whole session. So I'll give you some examples now, and later I will give you more examples. But
Mm-hmm.
before I get into the challenges in finding a job and keeping a job for neurodiverse individuals,
Mm-hmm.
let me share some recent statistics. So this is from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, came out in 2023, last year, which said that about 22.5% of individuals with disabilities are employed.
Mm-hmm.
And they said this was the highest recorded ratio since comparable data were being collected in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's reason to celebrate if it's the highest, but
Yeah.
it's also really low. It's still uncomfortably low.
Yes.
So we have a lot of work ahead of us.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some of the challenges, one of the challenges across neurodiverse individuals, and I talked about this in one of the earlier sessions, is executive function difficulties.
Yes.
Executive function, especially in the place of work, are the higher order tasks that we engage in to keep the job, get a job, and be successful at the job, such
Mm-hmm.
as uh, time management, knowing that a deadline for a project or a paper is coming up and needing to submit that, uh,
Mm-hmm.
problem solving on the job, working collaboratively with colleagues, prioritizing. All of these are part of our executive function skills.
Yeah.
Executive function skills are challenged. We have difficulty. So I'll give
Mm-hmm.
you an example. A neurodiverse individual may feel, oh, if I'm a little late
Yeah.
on a project, what's the big deal?
Mm-hmm.
But it is a big deal when you're
Yeah.
working and you're getting paid for doing the work. It is very different from being late on a term paper for college.
Yeah.
So
It's
that's
different in a workplace environment. Mm-hmm.
absolute. And the second thing I'll share for now, and then we'll come back to this topic, is that there is the research that shows that neurodiverse individuals often have a different value perception or a value perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Again, repeating what I just said, that someone who's neurodiverse may feel if I am a few minutes late to the meeting, it shouldn't matter. I'm still there.
Mm-hmm.
But from appearance, perspective, etc., it can mean a big deal for the supervisor.
Yeah.
And they have a hard time reading that body language. Not
Mm-hmm.
everybody, but sometimes. And that can be a challenge for
Yeah.
success in the workplace.
Yeah. Ironically, I feel like neurodiverse people are held to a higher standard many a time, instead of giving them a little bit of slack, but cutting some slack for them. But yeah, so many things kind of change in that
Yeah,
regard
I
as well.
will definitely talk about how the times have changed and how many large corporations and multinationals are leading the way
Mm-hmm.
to, as you said, cut slack
Yeah.
and value the talent that this
Mm-hmm.
population brings to the labor force.
That would be wonderful. So, right there, life changing programs to teach students who learn, think, and operate differently. That's Landmark College to find out how they equip students, develop the skills and strategies that they need to succeed. Well, visit landmark.edu. And what's more, they have a success center right here in the Bay Area in San Mateo. You can learn more by calling them at 408 505 4170 or simply visit landmark.edu/success center. So, Dr. Banerjee, talking of perspectives, we often hear that employees should have a growth mindset rather than a fixed mindset on the job. Could you explain what that really means?
Yeah, this is some very exciting research, and this growth versus fixed mindset is associated with Carol Dweck, internationally renowned psychologist from Stanford University. And what she talks about is that there are some individuals who have a fixed mindset, by which what she describes as they believe that their skill set is fixed and it is innate, and that they can do nothing to improve that skill set. So, for example, if someone believes that they're not good at math or problem solving, their whole approach and attitude is that's all I have. I'm not good at this, and there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah.
That's a fixed mindset.
Mm-hmm.
A growth mindset, on the other hand, is someone who looks at a challenge and sees an opportunity. So they are all about what can I learn from this situation? How can I do that, the task differently next time around? So that is the growth mindset. And you can have a fixed or growth mindset depending on circumstances, whether it is in meetings, whether it is in writing up projects,
Mm-hmm.
leading a group of people. So there are different areas where you can have growth or fixed mindset.
Yeah. So it's more like the attitude with which you operate, right?
It is a perspective. It's what you
Perspective.
believe. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's what you believe.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'd like to say is think about this.
Yeah.
The human brain learns through trial and error. We don't learn everything perfectly the first time. It is
Mm-hmm.
through trial and error. That's how we learn, and
Yeah.
that's how as we learn something, the neurons kind of get fused together to kind of retain that information that we've learned.
Yes.
So when you have a negative work related experience, a growth mindset is the perspective, okay, that didn't go well, but what can I take away from it? How can I rethink? So one of the strategies that individuals use to develop this growth mindset is self-talk. Talk to
Ah,
yourself. Talk to yourself and say, what happened?
yeah.
Label the emotion that you're feeling, whether it's sad, whether it's disappointed, whether it's angry.
Mm.
The research shows that labeling a sentiment really helps you to start addressing it. And taking the growth mindset perspective then really helps employees, especially neurodiverse employees, to come up with strategies and solutions to address these hurdles.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Wow, very well put. A great perspective there, Dr. Banerjee. And of course, we're talking about the growth mindset and, of course, the fixed mindset when approaching a job and neurodiversity in the workplace. You are listening to Neurodiversity with Dr. Banerjee, brought to you by Landmark College. College designed exclusively for students who learn differently, including those with a learning disability, ADHD, autism, or executive function challenges. And they offer personalized assistance not found at most traditional colleges, degree programs for students, and professional training for educators as well. Visit landmark.edu for more information, and they have a success center right here in the Bay Area as well. In San Mateo, you can call them at 408 505 4170. So, Dr. Banerjee, many in the South Asian community believe that while a child is a student, school or college should be their only focus, and education should be their only focus. They should not be really taking on part-time jobs or other jobs while in school, right? So, what is your perspective on this?
Yeah. I'm going to start off by saying that's old school thinking.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
There are many in the Southeast Asian community that take pride in saying, oh, my kid just goes to school. If he
Mm.
needs to save up to buy a car, I'll buy him that car.
Mm.
Or if they need pocket money for something, they don't have to take on a part-time job.
Yeah.
I can afford to do that.
Yes.
And unfortunately, that kind of sentiment is still alive and kicking.
Very much. Yeah.
But
Mm-hmm.
what it does is and while I agree, yes, there's no question, a school or college should be a primary focus as long as you're a student. But taking on a part-time job teaches you many things, among others, life skills, learning how to take responsibility, being accountable for your actions, and on and on. You know about it. Your audience knows about
Mm-hmm.
it.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say definitely part-time jobs are very important, but here's the thing. You need to assess when and what kind of job, part-time job, your son or daughter should be engaged in. And the child or young adult at that time should very much be a part of that decision. Because if you have a student with significant social anxiety, for example, a part-time job, which is not face-to-face, but maybe remote and online, would be a better option. So those are the
Mm-hmm.
things you really need to consider,
Yeah.
some of the nuances of
Mm-hmm.
part-time.
I see. Okay. So yeah, we have to turn that mindset that has been part of our culture, growing up around, because this taking on that job really adds to the person, the personality, not take away from it, right? So
Absolutely.
again, yeah. So again, folks, you are listening to Neurodiversity with Dr. Banerjee. It's brought to you by Landmark College, empowering educators and students alike. Landmark College offers academic support, executive function coaching, and student life transition to college, skills training for neurodiverse learners. You can check them out at landmark.edu. And what's more, they have a Bay Area Success Center as well. So make sure you reach out to them today itself. And of course, we're talking about neurodiversity in the workplace with Dr. Banerjee, who is Landmark College ambassador, neurodiversity ambassador at large, and she's taking time out to really help us address neurodiversity and all its dimensions. So, Dr. Banerjee, how important then is it for neurodiverse students to get that internship while in school and college? Like you say, it is significant, but what more could you tell us on that score?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So internships
Mm-hmm.
are really important for all students because that is kind of like the precursor to actual work. And having that internship experience is very, very important.
Yeah.
Now, we know that there are many different types of internships. There are paid internships, voluntary internships, part-time internships, some in the research labs, and otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that internships do, which is different from a part-time job, it allows you to explore your area of interest or a potential career path.
Mm-hmm.
So many students who are interested in internships will do interested in becoming maybe a medical professional, might do an internship at a medical lab.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you do that, you might decide, oh my God, I can't stand the smell of formaldehyde. So that job is not going to be for me.
Yeah.
So it really gives students that opportunity to explore while being in a safe space.
Yeah.
That's really important because you are learning these skills.
And like you mentioned before, the trial and error aspect of it as well, right?
Exactly. So there's career exploration, learning of new skills, and also learning how to deal with colleagues and supervisors in the workplace,
Interpersonal skills.
interpersonal skills,
Yeah.
and so on. The one thing I will say about internships is you want to start the search early Don't wait till your senior year or your fourth year before you graduate from college. Start it early. Start looking at the options and opportunities that corporate businesses and other multinationals offer, or even smaller businesses. So for some people, starting at a smaller place is preferable. The second tip I will give you is involve your college's office that links you with internships. Most post-secondary institutions have a person dedicated as a liaison for internships. Find that out. If you can't find that, talk to your professors, talk to your advisor, get that information early, because that's what's going to help you land that internship. Do I have time to say one more quick thing?
Of course. Yeah, please do.
So, it used to be that internships were, especially the choice internships, were given to those or were offered to those who had the better grades, the 4.0, and who were savvy speakers and so on.
Yeah.
But companies are starting to realize that there is much more in exploring beyond just how the student presents and how the student talks. And that is very heartening for neurodiverse individuals who may have terrific skills, but may not be very good at selling themselves.
Yes. So actually, that brings a additional question to my mind, is that since the internship, applying for an internship is kind of the first, attempt that most students, neurodiverse students, do in reaching out to the workplace or outside world, should they reveal that they are neurodiverse when they're applying for that internship?
So there's a difference between an internship and a job. When you're applying for an internship, yes, and absolutely. Like I said, you might even work with your liaison or your faculty or advisor in getting an internship.
Yes.
With a job, that's a different thing. And just like you don't reveal that you have a disability when you're doing a college application. Why? Because there's the potential for discrimination. Kind of parallel thinking when you're applying for a job, with the small caveat that if you're applying for a job and to a company that welcomes diversity, equity, and inclusion, and has a diversity, equity, and inclusion program, then absolutely go ahead and do that. But if you feel that they don't really know much about neurodiversity, but you need to apply there, then don't reveal it unless you need an accommodation for your application.
I see. Okay. Wow. That really.
Difference between the internship and the job, and the difference between job where you're applying.
Very well put. So, folks, you are listening to Neurodiversity. I'm RJ Vijaya, Neurodiversity with Dr. Banerjee, brought to you by Landmark College, combining research based learning strategies and academic support to prepare students for the rigors of college level work. And of course, Landmark College is based in Vermont with a terrific success center right here in San Mateo. You can find out more about their Bay Area Success Center. Visit landmark.edu/success center or call them at 408-505-4170. And we're talking about basically approaching neurodiversity and the workplace, the employability, and all of those issues which maybe you may resonate with as a parent of a neurodiverse student or a neurodiverse student as well. So, Dr. Banerjee, can you share with us the names of some of those businesses and companies that are recognized for hiring neurodiverse employees?
Absolutely, because I really feel that they should be applauded.
Yeah.
Landmark College works very closely with many of these large multinationals. In fact, Landmark College is an active feeder institute into the neurodiversity programs at this company. So the companies include Microsoft, and I'll tell you more about that in a minute, but it's Microsoft, it's Dell Inc., it's Hasbro, JP Morgan Chase, Fidelity, EY, SAP. I mean, it's a long list, folks. It's a
Mm-hmm.
long list.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's good to know that it's a long list.
yes, it is. But it really behooves us as neurodiverse, as parents of neurodiverse individuals or neurodiverse ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
to look into these specific programs and what they offer. So, for example, Microsoft, I know, came to Landmark College. They talked about their program. And what they do is they work very closely with the advisors and the program liaison to identify some students who might be interested in working at Microsoft.
Wow,
Then
nice.
they
Mm-hmm.
host something called, instead of your traditional interview and a traditional, which is all obviously anxiety provoking for many of these students,
Mm.
they host what is called they do a screening, and then they host what's called a hiring event.
Uh-huh.
And what this hiring event is, they pay you actually to go to the Microsoft headquarters, spend 3 or 4 days there,
Wow.
talk about your interests, your skills, your projects, what you've been doing in school, etc. Really kind of building up what you're good at.
Yeah.
And they will talk to you about the roles that are open. Are you interested in some of these? And then work with not only just the individuals who are part of the selection committee, but
Mm-hmm.
neurodiverse individuals within the company.
Oh, okay.
So the potential new recruits get to talk with other neurodiverse individuals within that company, ask questions. So they're ready-made role models
Yeah.
during the interview process.
They sort of handhold you through it, and
Yeah,
that's
exactly. And
mm,
then they offer you the job if it's a good match. So,
uh-huh.
so it's very different
Yeah.
from, sitting in the waiting room, your name's called, you go in for an interview.
Yeah.
If it's a panel, there's a panel around the table and they shoot questions at you. It's
So
very,
they turn that whole model of the interviewing, the
yeah,
stress and the thing on its head, and they change it
yes,
around. Mm-hmm.
yes, exactly. And
Uh-huh.
Dell does the same. And I
Yeah.
know we have many students from Landmark who have interned very successfully and then also been offered jobs
Yeah.
at these companies, Hasbro, EY, and so on.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. That is so great to see these companies in this other light, that they're doing this is not very much known in the community or at
Mhm.
large or in the public. So it's very nice to see these companies, big companies, really present themselves in this way, right? So
Absolutely.
that is really heartening. So Dr. Banjay, any last minute thoughts that you'd like to leave our listeners with on this topic of employability?
Yeah, I think the question that you asked about, it's hard for a potential neurodiverse individual looking for their first job to talk about neurodiversity.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really important that whoever their circle of support is, to kind of have that conversation,
Yeah.
discuss, is this something you want to talk about?
Mm.
It starts by looking at their website. Search the website, get the information. Do they have a DEI program?
Mm-hmm.
What contact the program, find more information about it. And you can do this with your child or young adult,
Mm.
or let them do it by
Yeah.
themselves. But the important thing is find out the information about what's out there for neurodiverse employees in the workplace.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow, that's excellent insight right there, and really ways to navigate this entire spectrum, especially in the workplace. Thank you so much, Dr. Banerjee, yet again for walking us through this very real predicament of navigating this intersection of neurodiversity and professional success. And of course, I'm excited for next week when we are going to be delving further into addressing neurodiversity in the workplace as well, right? So thank you so much. And folks, Landmark College is on hand to help you every step of the way if you are a neurodiverse student or the parent of one or a caregiver of one as well. Visit landmark.edu/success center to learn more or just call them at 408-505-4170. And if you have questions on any aspect of neurodiversity for Dr. Banerjee, send them my way at vijaya@radiozindagi.com. That's VIJAYA at radiozindagi.com. And don't forget to join us every Thursday, 3:30 p.m. for another enlightening edition of Neurodiversity with Dr. Banerjee, brought to you by Landmark College. I'm RJ Vijaya. For now, keep listening to Radio Zindagi. Jiye ja.